She sat cross-legged on the concrete floor of the command post, surrounded by coils of wire, cracked circuit boards, and the quiet hum of generators struggling against the Afghan heat. The radio in her hands was older than most of the soldiers who walked past her without noticing. Its casing was scratched, its antenna bent, its speaker dead silent, at least until she touched it. Her name was Evelyn Carter, though almost no one here bothered to remember I.T.O. them. She was just the contractor, not a soldier, not an officer, not worth saluting. The command post at Forward Operating Base Harridan was a controlled storm of urgency. Boots pounding, maps spread across tables, voices clipped and tense. Somewhere beyond the wire, a patrol was late checking in. Somewhere closer, a drone feed flickered. And right in the middle of it all, Evelyn calmly repaired a radio everyone else had already written off as dead. A young lieutenant walked by, coffee in hand, nearly tripping over her toolkit. "Careful," she said without looking up. He glanced down, irritated. "You really think that antique's going to work?" She didn't answer immediately. She twisted two wires together, soldered them with steady hands, then tapped the radio's casing twice. Static. Then, a voice. "Bravo 2, checking in." Took fire, but we're clear. The room froze for half a second. The lieutenant stopped walking. The operations officer looked up sharply. Someone whispered, "That radio's been offline for weeks." Evelyn finally looked up, her eyes calm, unreadable. "Loose ground on the transmitter coil," she said. "Easy fix." No one thanked her. They rarely did. She went back to work, already pulling another broken unit toward her. This one had been dragged through sand and blood, its battery housing cracked from an explosion 2 days earlier. She worked like she always did, quietly, efficiently, without asking for recognition. What no one in that room knew, what none of them suspected, was that the woman repairing radios on the floor had once coordinated real-time battlefield communications for some of the most classified operations in modern military history, and that before the day was over, a SEAL captain's salute would bring this entire command post to a standstill. Evelyn hadn't planned on being here after leaving active service. Years ago, she'd sworn she was done with forward bases, done with dust storms and radio silence, done with watching good people disappear off radar screens. But when the call came, when an old contact said a base was losing comms faster than they could replace equipment, she agreed to one last contract. 1 month, she'd said, just fixing radios. They didn't ask about her past. She didn't offer it. That was fine. The base treated her like background noise. Soldiers brushed past her. Officers spoke over her. A few assumed she was logistics. Others guessed civilian tech support. No rank on her chest meant no attention, which suited her perfectly. Until the radios started working again. 3 days later, the patrol that checked in on her repaired radio returned to base with 0 casualties. Coincidence? Maybe. But then another unit avoided an ambush after a dead frequency suddenly came alive. Then a medevac landed exactly on time because a backup channel, one that hadn't worked in months, transmitted coordinates clearly through a storm. Whispers started. "Who's fixing these?" "I heard it's that woman in the corner." "No way. Those radios are trash." Evelyn ignored it all. She ate alone, slept little, worked constantly. She knew the sound of stress and static. She could hear fear between broken signals. And she knew that when radios failed, people died. That was something you never forgot. Late one evening, as the sun bled orange behind the HESCO barriers, the command post buzzed with new tension. Word had spread fast. A Navy SEAL team was inbound. Not just any team, but a Tier 1 unit. High-priority mission. High-ranking officers expected. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Boots were polished. Tables cleared. Flags straightened. The base commander himself arrived to oversee preparations. Evelyn remained on the floor. An O1 told her to move. An O1 asked her to leave. She was invisible again, until the radio in her hands crackled alive. "Command, this is Reaper Actual. 2 minutes out. Request comms, check." The operations officer leaned forward. "Reaper Actual, you're loud and clear." Static spiked, then died. The screen flickered. Silence. The operations officer cursed under his breath. "We're losing them." He turned sharply. "Peck, Where's the tech? Several heads turned at once. For the first time, eyes landed on Evelyn. She was already standing. Which channel? She asked. The officer hesitated. Secure frequency Delta 7. A pause rippled through the room. That channel was encrypted, unstable, notoriously difficult to maintain. Evelyn nodded once. She stepped past desks, past officers, straight to the primary console. Her fingers moved fast, precise, like she'd done this 1,000 times before, because she had. Reaper Actual, she said into the mic, her voice calm and steady. Adjust your transmission gain down 5%. You're overpowering the relay. There was a beat of silence. Then copy that, the voice replied. Adjusting now. The signal stabilized instantly. Every head in the room snapped up. The operations officer stared at her. How did you? She didn't answer. The helicopter thudded down moments later, rotors slicing the air. Dust flooded the base. Soldiers lined up. The SEALs disembarked fast, disciplined, faces hidden behind gear. Then their captain stepped forward. He scanned the command post. His eyes stopped on Evelyn. For a long, unreadable moment, he simply looked at her. Then, slowly, deliberately, he raised his hand and saluted. The room went silent. Officers froze mid-step. Mouths hung open, and one breathed at a Navy SEAL captain saluting a civilian contractor. Evelyn returned the salute automatically. Perfect form. Perfect timing, the captain smiled faintly. Good to see you again, Chief, he said. And just like that, everything they thought they knew about the woman repairing radios shattered. The silence after Commander Ward's salute didn't break all at once. IT cracked, slowly, like ice under pressure. Men shifted their weight. Someone cleared his throat. A chair leg scraped against concrete far too loudly. The laughter from earlier now felt radioactive. Everyone was careful not to step on it again. Chief Harlow stared at the floor, then at her arm, then anywhere but her face. Mara Vale didn't look at him. She looked straight ahead as Ward turned toward the front of the room, clasping his hands behind his back. Sit, he said. Everyone obeyed instantly. The briefing resumed, but the air was different now. Every word carried weight. Every slide on the screen felt sharper. Ward spoke of joint operations, of unconventional terrain, of adaptive enemy tactics. But every few minutes, someone's eyes drifted back to Mara, subtle, curious, restrained. She didn't notice, or if she did, she didn't care. Her mind was elsewhere. Back in the desert. Back where the tattoo was born. 8 years earlier, Kandahar province had been nothing but dust, heat, and bad decisions stacked on top of worse ones. The intel was thin. The time window thinner, a convoy of hostages. Aid workers, journalists, 2 locals caught in the wrong place. Was moving at night through a valley that never showed up clean on satellite imagery. Too many shadows. Too many caves. Mara had been attached to the task force as support. That was the word they used, support. She was supposed to sit in the TOC, monitor feeds, update maps. But maps lie. Terrain shifts. Enemy adapts. And that night, the valley swallowed signals whole. The first ambush hit Team Alpha hard. RPGs from elevation. Kill zone perfectly shaped. Someone on the radio screamed coordinates that didn't make sense. Mara pulled the feed up manually. Cross-referenced old Soviet topo maps with drone shadow analysis. Her fingers moved fast, but her mind moved faster. She saw it. Not just the ambush, but the pattern. They weren't being attacked. They were being guided. She grabbed a grease pencil and started drawing directly on the glassboard. Lines. Angles. Overlapping arcs. Someone yelled at her to stop. She didn't. Your map is wrong, she said, voice cutting through chaos. They're not trying to kill Alpha. They're trying to funnel Bravo into the secondary basin. Ward, then a lieutenant commander, had turned toward her. How sure? He asked. She didn't hesitate. Certain. He trusted her. That decision saved 12 lives. Afterward, when it was over and the valley went quiet again, she couldn't sleep. The lines stayed in her head. The angles. The choices. The places where people almost died. Yes, oh, she did something strange. She went to a tattoo artist off base who didn't ask questions, and she put the map on her arm. Not as ART, AS memory, AS warning, AS promised, Back in Coronado, the briefing ended. Ward dismissed the room. Men stood, filed out quieter than before. Harlow hesitated near the door. He looked at Mara, then at Ward. "Sir," he said carefully. "I owe." Ward raised a hand. "Not now." Harlow nodded and left. Ward waited until the room was empty. Then he turned to her. "They still underestimate you," he said. "They always will," Mara replied. "That used to bother you." "It stopped," she said. "About the third time, it saved someone's life." Ward studied her for a long moment. "You're leading the ground coordination on the exercise tomorrow." She didn't react. "I thought I was support," she said evenly. Ward smiled faintly. "You were," he said. "Now you're proof." The exercise turned real faster than anyone expected. IT always did. What was meant to be a controlled live-fire simulation off the coast turned into a full scramble when an unidentified fast boat crossed into restricted waters, running dark. No transponder, no response to hails. Intel flagged possible arms transfer. Then a second boat appeared. Then a third. The scenario flipped from training to containment in minutes. Ward was already moving when the call came in. "Mara," he said, handing her a tablet. "You're with me." The helicopter ride out was loud and cramped. Rotors chopping air. Salt spray in the wind. Harlow sat across from her, face unreadable. Finally, he spoke. "I was wrong," he said. She looked at him. "Yes," she agreed. He winced, but nodded. "Fair." He glanced at her arm. "That tattoo, it's operational, isn't it?" "It was," she said. "Now it's a reminder." "Of what?" "That hesitation kills faster than bullets." The boat split just before contact. Classic misdirection. Mara leaned over the tablet, fingers dancing, overlaying live feeds with instinct. "They're bait," she said. "Weapons transfer is inland. The boats are noise." Ward relayed the call instantly. Minutes later, SEALs fast roped into darkness, cutting engines, moving silent. Shots rang out. Not where expected, but exactly where Mara predicted. The inland team intercepted a cache big enough to destabilize a region. Point zero friendly casualties. Back on the deck, under red lights and sea mist, Harlow approached her again. This time, there was no humor in his eyes. "Thank you," he said simply. She nodded. That was enough. Word spread. Not loud, not official, but the kind that mattered. The tattoo stopped being a joke. IT became a question. And Mara Vale became something else entirely. Not a symbol, not a headline, but a constant presence where things went wrong and somehow came out right. Months later, a junior operator asked her if she'd ever remove it. She shook her head. "Why would I erase a map that leads people home?" Years later still, back in that same briefing hall, a new group sat where the old one once had. A young woman stood near the door, sleeves rolled, ink visible. Someone laughed. Mara, now senior enlisted, caught it. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She simply raised her hand, and the room went quiet. Somewhere, the cycle broke.